what they're doing in Africa is the missing piece, a weapon to surpass Metal Gear. Meaning it's not just another nuke.
Mission 15. Kaz gives Snake a mission from the MPLA, the People's Movement for Liberation of Angola. They want you to eliminate some walker gears that have been deployed nearby in a village. However, Kaz found it strange that this PF with the walker gears is supplied by the West. Okay, this is gonna get complicated, but try to keep up. Kaz found it strange that this PF with walker gears, PF being private force, I think, or private, it's a private military. He found it strange that this PF with the walker gears is supplied by the West, and the walker gears are developed by the Soviets. But the MPLA seems to be clueless about the walker gears, even though they're backed by the Soviets. He thinks that only Cypher could make some twisted crap like this happen, and that doing this mission will give them more information about Cypher. Once Snake had destroyed all the walker gears,
No targets remaining.
Kaz informs you that he was right about Cypher. Apparently a call was made from to the CFA headquarters, and they contracted Senior for more walker gears, confirming that Senior was just a front for Cypher. So if Senior is indeed Cypher, for some reason Cypher wanted you to blow up that oil field. Either way, Kaz also learned that the walker gears were being transported out of Nova Braga Airport, an airport nearby. Mission 16, Trader's Caravan. With the new information about the airport, Kaz decided to steal a truck that will be escorted for a delivery to Cypher. Snake would have to find files that show the path the escort group would take, and then follow them to the truck. Or you could just do what I do and go straight to the airport where the truck is. That'd speed things up. Anyways, once Snake gets close enough to the truck, skulls jump out and attack. This only serves to confirm that what Kaz believed was true, that Cypher has something to do with all of this. After another battle with the skulls, Snake extracts the truck to Mother Base and its cargo was examined. Kaz informs you that there were two types of cargo, drums of malachite, which he believes was used to hide the second cargo, since the malachite isn't really valuable enough for all this protection. The second cargo was yellow cake, a type of uranium used for nuclear weapons, which might have something to do with what Huey said about the weapon to surpass Metal Gear. However, Kaz points out that there wasn't nearly enough to make a nuclear warhead. Kaz tells Snakes that they will continue to research and will get back to him. Mission 18, Blood Runs Deep. Kaz assigns Snake to a mission from a commander of a rebel group who wants his captured men to be killed in order to keep them from talking. Apparently there are 6 targets. One is in a plantation and the other are working as prisoners inside some mines. Snake finds the first person in a plantation and kills or extracts him, depending on the player. The rest are inside a mine. By the looks of what you find there, a diamond mine. When you find the rest, you realize that they're all child soldiers. From what I could gather, Kaz records the sound of Snake's mission through tapes. So instead of killing them, Snake aims his gun at them and unloads his gun on a barrel behind the kids in order to record gunfire and the screams of the children to make it sound in the recording like he shot the children, so the contractor would believe that he killed them. Afterwards, Snake frees the children and takes them to Mother Base. When they get to Mother Base, Kaz tests one of the children by grabbing him from behind, quickly reacts and falls back in order to get Kaz off of him. Snake remarks that with a little bit of training he could make himself useful. After Kaz tests his reflexes, he decides that he would make a separate building for the children and that they wouldn't be counted as staff. Instead, they will be taught normal things children learn in order to help them back into society and lead a normal life. Look at that. Kaz does have a heart. Mission 20. Voices. One of the kids Snake rescues gives him a mission. The mission is to rescue his old leader, a child named Shabani. from a place called the Devil's House. Apparently, people think that the devil is literally inside this house, and that whoever goes in never comes back. After some research, Kaz managed to dig up the fact that this building used to be owned by Senior, who we now know is a front for Cypher. Kaz also says that Shibani was the oldest of the kids and was taken away days before Snake's rescue in the mines. How these kids that assigned you to this mission are planning on paying you is beyond me. But oh well, a job's a job. Snake finds the old factory-like facility after traversing some wetlands. Inside the facility, he finds what seems to be a scene taken straight out of Silent Hill. Walls covered in blood, medical equipment scattered everywhere and broken, and multiple voices in the background coming from radios in different languages. Deeper inside the facility, Snake finds a man on a table with the same inflamed tissue around his chest area as the corpses found in the oil fields. However, something strange about this is that he also had headphones lodged inside a slit on his throat. When Snake pulls it up to his ear, it's more of the same voices he heard through the radios. In the next room, he found over a dozen more people tied up on gurneys, much in the same way. When Snake found Shibani, he found small bumps in his chest. It seemed like the same marks as the other, except at an early stage. Snake took a necklace Shibani was holding in his hand and cut him loose. However, at this moment, Skullface walks in and checks on one of the captives close to Shibani. He hunches over, not knowing Snake is nearby, and tells the captive, he then shoots him in the face. At this moment, Shibani starts to panic, which causes Skullface to notice you. However, instead of shooting you, he lets the man on fire kill you, saying,
"Burn with the rest of them."
And at this point, the man on fire appears out of nowhere, along with the floating kid. The man on fire lunges at Snake, but he freezes when the floating kid sets his attention on the now burning Shibani, allowing Snake to crawl away. After a few seconds, the floating kid moves back towards the man on fire, and he comes back to life, forcing Snake to, as Kaz says,
"Get the fuck out of there!"
Once outside the facility, Snake avoids being killed by the man on fire while waiting for Pequot to pick him up, or he disposes of the man on fire if the player finds out how. After the mission, Kaz confirms that the man burned down everything, so there is no trace of what was happening in the facility. However, they recorded everything, so they were going to analyze what they caught on the radios that were playing. Once back in Mother Base, Snake met up with the kids who gave him the mission and simply gave him Shibani's necklace. This was enough for him to know what happened. Cassette tapes. In a cassette tape, Kaz and Snake talk about the lumps on the captive's chest and what could have caused it. Unfortunately, every trace of it burned off of Snake during the fight with the man on fire. However, Kaz was also concerned with whether or not it might have been contagious. Kaz went on to say that after analyzing the audio from the radio, it turns out that they were all just simple public broadcasts from different countries. London, Sweden, and a bunch of other countries in different continents. Nothing really tied them together. He said that every major language was heard in the tapes. Everything from Russian, Mandarin, Arabic, and even different dialects of Spanish and more. However, surprisingly enough, the one they did not detect was English, despite the fact that about 1/3 of the world can speak English even if it's not the native tongue. So to sum it all up, people with a condition that made their chest swell up were made to have audio play inside their throats in different languages except English. Kaz informs Snake that the CFA soldiers assigned at Bwala Yamasa, the village close to the oil field that Snake went through during the first mission he had in Africa, had disappeared. No signs of any endemic or any combat. Apparently only the child soldier survived. Knowing nothing but war, these kids have become their own little militia of children, terrorizing the nearby villages. The government of this area wants Diamond Dogs to kill the kids. However, Kaz, showing his heart once again, has a different idea. He wants to disarm, demobilize, and reintegrate the kids into society. Snake's mission is to find a commander, nicknamed the White Mamba, and extract him. Kaz believes that by extracting the leader, the rest of the group would simply fall apart by itself. Cassette tapes. In a cassette tape, Kaz reveals that the adults with the kids started dying right after Snake arrived in Africa. Because the kids knew nothing but how to use a gun, they were lost. They couldn't get back home and they had nothing to eat. That's when the White Mamba showed up. Apparently he was faster, stronger, and a great leader. He quickly became these kids' leader and drove them to start attacking the other villages. However, his skills weren't the only special thing about him. The White Mamba name came from the fact that he was the only white kid in the unit. Not just that, but he also had blonde hair and blue eyes, not common around these parts obviously, so it's a mystery where he came from. Once he gets through the village, which was indeed full of nothing but children, save for one prisoner, Snake finds the White Mamba inside a beached boat.
Something tells me that's not the name your parents gave you.
After some struggle, Snake manages to subdue him and take him to the helicopter.
You lose, Commander.
When the helicopter arrives, Snake tries to give the White Mamba a hand getting up. He just looks at him and walks up himself. Once they arrive in Mother Base, Snake welcomes the White Mamba to the base, saying,
Welcome to Outer Heaven.
The White Mamba gets angry, rushes at him, grabs his knife and tries to attack him. Snake obviously destroys him and dislocates his shoulder. I guess it's understandable. He's angry he got captured. Nothing weird about his anger, right? Anyway, Snake tells him,
We got rules around here. Never draw a weapon on a fellow soldier.
He then relocates his shoulder back in place. He tells him that anyone can use a weapon, and what he's gonna learn here is how to use his head. And once he does that, he will be free to leave. The White Mamba just leers at him and walks away. Ocelot informs Snake that during the Les Enfants Terribles project, the one brought up before which causes Big Boss to split from Zero, one of the clones managed to get away and ran into the same region that he found the White Mamba in. This would probably be a good time to say what the Les Enfants Terribles project is. The project was a plan to clone Snake in case anything happened to him. Very long story short. Anyways, Ocelot says that he doesn't 100% think that the White Mamba is Snake's clone, but just to make sure, he's going to run some DNA tests on him. At some point in the game, Quiet is shown chasing a soldier down in Mother Base. He runs scared from her, and when two other soldiers try to stop her, she easily holds them up and pushes them off. She then makes her way to the Diamond Dog soldier she was after, jumps on him, and puts her knife inside his mouth. He holds it with his teeth, but she manages to break his teeth, which is really not that great of a feat now that I think about it. Honestly, if he was able to hold back a knife with his teeth, I have to question Quiet's strength or this guy's jaw strength. Anyways, Snake walks behind her, telling her to stop, and eventually pulling her off. She tries to fight back, but Snake subdues her and gets his other men to jump on her, while Ocelot tranquilizes her with a shot. Snake tells Ocelot to tighten up security around her cell, and that if it happens again, there won't be a third time. Cassette tapes. In a tape, Kaz explains that he had taken the weapons away from the children, including the White Mamba, and banned them from using any weapons or using their nom de guerre. Nom de guerre. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it pretty much means code names. I'm guessing it translates to names of war. So this is how he learned that the White Mamba's real name was Eli. Eli was, of course, not very happy with this, feeling like he was being stripped of his whole identity. He also revealed that Eli seems to speak fluent English, and that he actually has a British accent. Back in Mother Base, after some missions, Eli is shown bullying one of the children in Mother Base after he calls him Eli. This causes one of the Diamond Dog soldiers on duty to scold him and also call him by his name Eli. After being angered by this, Eli attacks said Diamond Dog soldier, and Ocelot gets in the middle and, well, beats his little punk ass down. Eli continues to try to get up, but Ocelot keeps on beating his little ass down until he decides to stay down. Around this time, soldiers on Mother Base start to fall sick one by one. In a tape, Kaz describes that the lumps in their chests were full of tiny worms, parasites. The symptoms resembling that of the captives in the Devil's House, and on the corpses in the ditch in the oil field, which leads Ocelot to believe this could be a strike from Cypher. He believes Cypher has weaponized parasites, something nobody has been able to develop a vaccine for. This leads him to believe that this is that weapon to surpass Metal Gear Huey was talking about. Kaz, of course, blames Quiet the first chance he gets. He brings up how Quiet attacked one of the guys on the base, and this just happens to be one of the first guys who showed symptoms. He believes Quiet could have passed it on through saliva or blood. Ocelot believes that this is a baseless accusation, but Kaz stays on his theory, saying that everyone else agrees. Ocelot, however, does agree that she knows something. He believes that what Quiet did to that soldier was a reaction to being able to identify who's being infected. So he says that the source of the infection might be in the mouth of the infected, so we could look for something in the soldier's mouth that they have in common, in order to spot who's symptomatic and quarantine them. Kaz, as most of us probably do, believes that this is a stupid idea. He keeps fear-mongering about Quiet, saying that she can't be trusted. At this point, it's up to the player to figure out who is symptomatic and send them to quarantine. If not, they have to play through the next few missions, seeing their soldiers die little by little until the story unfolds itself. Mission 27, Root Cause. Kaz informs Snake that an intel member of Diamond Dog has obtained information about the root cause of the epidemic. However, he was caught by the local PFs before he could make it back. Snake is tasked with rescuing his intel team member and getting whatever info he has on the epidemic. When Snake finds him, he tells him that the root of the epidemic lies with a man named Code Talker who is in a mansion. He goes on to say that that mansion is where he was before he was captured. He managed to escape only when other intel members of Diamond Dogs made themselves human shields in order to help him get his intel to Snake. According to him, the other intel members are still in the mansion somewhere. Mission 28, Code Talker. Snake is tasked with finding the old man known as Code Talker inside the mansion, as he is believed to be part of, or at least know, what the root cause of the epidemic on Mother Base is. On his way there, Snake is ambushed by 4 skulls again, except this time they're different. They're female skulls. And they behave exactly like Quiet. They're snipers who can disappear and walk really fast, and jump really high. Essentially, you're fighting 4 Quiets at the same time. After the fight, Snake makes it to the heavily guarded mansion. There he finds graves where Kaz said the other intel members were buried. Snake makes his way to the basement where Code Talker is. Snake shows him a picture of the lungs of his infected man and tells him what was happening at his base. Before he can continue, however, Code Talker tells him to be quiet as his life depends on it. He tells him that it could already be here, pointing at his throat. He then begins to explain that what he sees on the chest of his men are the effect of the parasite's larvae. Apparently, the parasites can mimic the host membranes perfectly, making them undetectable. When they mature, they start mating, and the exposure of a certain sound for a certain amount of time triggers copulation. At this point, the larvae feast on the host's lungs, and this is what we see as the lumpy lumps on the people's chests. Yes, lumpy lumps. Now, Code Talker takes a second to smoke his pipe and look dramatic before saying that the particular sound they need to hear to copulate is
His words.
This explains why he told Snake to shut the fuck up. According to Code Talker, the parasites become attuned to a certain language, and when they detect that language, they start to copulate and the reaction begins. Unfortunately, he can't tell us which language the parasites in Mother Base are attuned to, but staying quiet is the best method to keep them at bay. He tells them that once symptoms begin to manifest, there is no turning back. But for the rest of his men, there is a way to save them. Before explaining, Snake reaches out his hand and tells Code Talker that he needs his help. Before getting up, Code Talker tells Snake that he, meaning Skullface, stole his work and forced him to research terrible things. At this point, he admits responsibly for the chaos his quote-unquote children, meaning the parasites, he calls the parasites his children, he takes responsibility for the damage that they have done and agrees to join Snake. As Snake carries Code Talker out, he tells Snake that Skullface calls the parasites his quote-unquote ethnic cleansers, as all he would need to do is teach the parasites the language of a certain people, unleash that parasite in the land, and let nature take its course. Anyone who speaks the language would die, and only those who stay quiet or speak a different language would be spared. Essentially, it's a weapon of selective mass destruction, the weapon to surpass Metal Gear. This causes Kaz to come to a revelation. In the Devil's House, the radio's playing every major language on Earth, except English. What Kaz believed is that Skullface's plan was to kill anybody who spoke anything but English. A global genocide. Snake manages to sneak past the guards and get Code Talker to Pequod. On the way to Mother Base, Code Talker explains that he made a certain type of Wolbachia, don't ask me what that is, which will infect the parasites and turn the males to female, making sure they won't copulate. The drawback being the host, that being Snake and his soldiers, will be rendered infertile. Code Talker also explains that the skulls are the result of a different strain of the vocal cord parasite. They're called the one that covers. The one that covers strain acts as a host's skin, providing strength in exchange for nourishment. When Code Talker asks Snake if they've seen any of Cypher's cargo vehicles, Kaz remembers the yellow cake they found. Code Talker then becomes concerned and asks him what became of it, the metallic archaea. As soon as he asks this, a giant cloud is seen coming towards Pequod. Code Talker simply says,
It's them.
To be continued.